All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to do a deep, system-level dive on the most complex, high-performance machine you will ever own, your own body. We're going to diagnose its most common and, frankly, critical failure state. And then we'll walk through the entire protocol for not just recovery, but a full-blown upgrade, all based on the principles Alex lays out. So let's kick things off with a core analogy from Alex that just perfectly frames this whole discussion. Picture this. You are equipped with an incredible system, a machine with just immense potential. But for some reason, it's not performing. And it's not because of a design flaw, right? It's because it is missing the single most critical resource it needs to actually power up all its advanced features. Okay, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll run a system-wide diagnosis to figure out the fundamental fault. Then we're going to do a root cause analysis to find the biggest resource leak in the whole system. After that, we'll learn how to correctly interpret the system's error signals. And from there, we'll walk through the full multi-stage protocol for recovery and, ultimately, a complete system upgrade. So, we have to start with the fundamental diagnosis. This is the single premise that this entire protocol is built on. The system, your body, is suffering from a chronic, debilitating lack of accessible energy. You know, Alex uses these really powerful engineering analogies to illustrate this gap. You have the hardware of a Ferrari, but you don't have enough fuel in the tank. You've got a smart home that's loaded with all the latest features, but the main circuit breaker keeps tripping because of low electrical power. Your system has the potential of a high-capacity battery, but it's constantly operating at a low state of charge. See the pattern here? The potential is there, but the power to actually manifest it, it's just missing. So this energy deficit, it forces the system into a perpetual state of damage control. Think of it like a server running in safe mode. Yeah, it's online, but it's only doing the absolute most essential functions to stay alive. All the non-critical processes, like running optimizations, installing updates, repairing corrupted files, they're all put on hold indefinitely. Why? Because there just isn't enough power to run them. And that brings us to the most crucial point. The system isn't broken, it's just chronically underpowered. This isn't about one single faulty component. We're talking about a system-wide power failure that prevents it from ever reaching its specified, designed operational capacity. Okay, let's put it all together real quick. The core problem we're looking at isn't a design flaw, it's a critical energy deficit. This power shortage forces the body into this low-power damage control mode, which stops any higher-level functions like repair or optimization in their tracks. It's literally a Ferrari without fuel, a battery that just never gets to fully charge. This slide right here, this is your mental screenshot. It summarizes all the key takeaways from this section. Now here's a board-style question for you. Based on this model, how would you define the primary bottleneck that's preventing a system from being able to utilize its own advanced features? Okay, so we've moved from the what to the why. If the system is suffering from a massive power drain, the next logical step for any engineer is to run a root cause analysis to find the primary leak. So where is all the energy going? So where is the leak? Well, we all know the brain is a huge energy hog, right? It consumes about 20% of our resources just at rest. But Alex identifies an even bigger culprit, especially under our modern conditions, the digestive system. This right here is the source of our primary energy leak. Now, the system is designed for efficiency. The digestion process, it has a specified runtime. Ideally, it should complete its task within a maximum of 4 hours. When this process overruns its allotted time, it doesn't just slow things down a bit, it creates a major system blockage. To put this in engineering terms that a lot of you will get instantly, think of it like a rogue process ID, a PID, on a server. It starts up, but it fails to complete, and it gets stuck in an infinite loop. It just sits there, spinning, consuming a massive amount of CPU and RAM without producing any useful output. You can't do anything else. You can't run other critical jobs until you kill that rogue process. Well, this is exactly what happens with prolonged digestion. It becomes this resource-hogging process that blocks the entire system. When the system checks and sees the task isn't done after 4 hours, it generates an error log. Then it checks again, finds the same error, and logs it again, creating this loop of error logging that just consumes even more resources. And this digital analogy, it has a pretty grim physical counterpart. This system blockage isn't just about wasted energy. When different kinds of foods stay undigested together for too long, the internal environment literally becomes toxic. Alex uses this really stark image. It's like leaving fruit and meat to rot together inside a sealed plastic bag. This process creates a breeding ground for harmful mutations and organisms, which further burdens the system and creates even more errors that it has to deal with. This all leads us to a really core concept here, the paradox of fuel. The very substance that is meant to power the system, food, becomes the single biggest energy drain when its processing becomes a stuck, looping, inefficient task. So to free up energy, the system has to, paradoxically, limit its engagement with its own fuel source. It's wild. Okay, so let's connect these dots. The root cause of this massive energy deficit is the digestive system. When digestion goes past its 4-hour design window, it becomes like a rogue process, totally hogging all the system's energy and blocking all other functions. This creates the paradox of fuel, where the very thing that's supposed to power the system becomes its greatest burden. This flashcard right here covers the core diagnostics of the energy leak. So, here's your board exam question. Using the PID loop analogy, explain how a single, inefficient process can ultimately lead to total system degradation. So, this internal blockage, it naturally leads to the next logical problem, error signals. A system that's stuck in damage control is going to start throwing warnings, but these warnings are very often misinterpreted. And the most common one is adrenaline. A common question that Alex gets highlights this misunderstanding perfectly. You have an athlete, someone who's pushing their body to its absolute limits, and they see high output and high adrenaline, yet their system isn't actually getting better. It's not repairing, it's not optimizing, and this feels like a total paradox. The answer lies in completely reframing how we interpret this signal. The common misconception, what we're all taught, is that adrenaline is a feature of a powerful system, a sign of peak performance. But Alex's diagnosis is the exact opposite. High adrenaline is a bug report. It's a critical error signal telling you that the system is under extreme stress and simply cannot cope with the current load. The jumper start analogy just captures this perfectly. Remember how the body is a low-potential battery? Well, adrenaline is the emergency jumper start you use on a dead car battery. Sure, it gives you a temporary, massive surge of power to get the engine running, but it does absolutely nothing to fix the underlying problem, which is that the battery can't hold a charge. It's a clear sign of failure, not strength. So the crucial point is this. If your system constantly needs an emergency jumpstart, it's not optimized. It's not even close. It's still stuck in damage control. The energy it gets from that adrenaline rush is being burned on emergency survival, not on background processes like repair, optimization, or installing any upgrades. The key insight here is absolutely crucial. High adrenaline is not a badge of honor. It's not a sign of a high-performance state. It is an error signal. It's a diagnostic code telling you the system is under critical stress and, in Alex's words, cannot cope. It is the equivalent of an emergency jumper start for a low-potential battery, a flashing red light that the body is still stuck in damage control. Let's consolidate our diagnostic for how to read the body's stress signals. Now, for your board exam question, explain why high output, like exercise, combined with high stress signals, like adrenaline, does not equal a net positive energy state for the system. Okay, so now that we've diagnosed the fault and we've located the primary leak, we can finally begin the recovery protocol. This process is sequential, and it starts with the single most critical step, release. Alex frames this initial stage as a clean install. For anyone who's ever had to fix a hopelessly bogged-down computer, this makes perfect sense, right? You don't try to fix 1,000 little errors and registry conflicts. You wipe the system. You start fresh from a clean, unburdened state. The goal here is exactly the same. Remove the unnecessary processes and the accumulated junk that are keeping the system locked in a permanent state of damage control. And he visualizes these burdens with these really powerful metaphors. You're carrying 2 heavy food buckets, which represents the constant heavy load of digestion. You're wearing a helmet that restricts your perception and focus. You're lugging a large backpack that's just full of accumulated metabolic waste. And you've got lead weights on your hands and feet, creating this physical and metabolic drag.
But, and this is key, there is a clear and totally non-negotiable order of operations for removing. The protocol is strictly sequential. You can't take off the helmet, you can't take off the backpack if your hands are full carrying the buckets. The first step, the absolute prerequisite for everything else, is you have to put down the food buckets. You must release the system from that primary energy drain of constant digestion. Only when those resources, those hands, are freed up, can the system even begin to address the other burdens. Okay, quick recap on this. Stage 1 of the protocol is release, and it functions like a clean install for the body. It's about sequentially removing multiple burdens. But the non-negotiable first step is shedding the digestive load, metaphorically releasing the food buckets. This single step is the prerequisite for any other repair or optimization to even begin to take place.
This flashcard outlines the protocol for Stage 1 release. Now, here's your board exam question. Explain the strategic importance of addressing the food buckets first in the sequential release protocol. All right, so once the burdens are released and the system has a surplus of accessible energy, really for the first time, it can finally exit damage control mode and begin the full journey from recovery all the way to true enhancement. Now let's look at the complete 4-stage path that Alex lays out. It's a really clear, logical progression. First, you release the burdens to free up energy. With that new energy surplus, you begin to repair all the damage that accumulated during that damage control phase. Once the system is stable and repaired, you move on to optimize its functions for peak efficiency. And then, finally, you can begin to upgrade the system's core capabilities beyond its original factory settings. This whole progression, it's about a fundamental state change. It's about transforming the body from that low-potential battery that can barely keep the lights on into a fully powered system that has ample electrical power to run all of its most advanced features simultaneously and effectively. So in essence, the entire path to enhancement is a logical 4-step engineering process. You release burdens to free up power, you use that new power to repair system errors, then you optimize the existing functions for efficiency, and finally you upgrade the system to a whole new level of performance. It's a systematic journey from a state of energy deficit to one of superior capability. This slide lays out the complete recovery and enhancement path beautifully. So, board exam question. Differentiate between the objectives of the repair and optimize stages in this protocol. And finally, let's look at a critical support system in this protocol. Think of it as an alternative way the body generates power, which is absolutely essential, especially during that initial release phase. The key components for this alternative power source are electrolytes. Now, from an engineering perspective, these are just minerals that become ions, electrically charged particles, when they're dissolved in a solvent like water. Their ability to carry a charge is what makes them so critical for all the electrical signaling in the body. Alex proposes that beyond just the chemical energy we get from food, the body has another mechanism to generate a form of its own electricity. This system uses water as the medium and electrolytes, particularly sodium from salt, to create the electrical potential that's needed to power its functions. And this has a very direct, practical application. A simple, homemade oral rehydration solution is actually a feat of bioengineering. It's not just a random mix of stuff. The water provides the solvent, the salt provides the critical sodium ions, and the sugar, or glucose, this is the cool part, it isn't just for taste. It plays a crucial role in the transport mechanism, actively helping the intestine to absorb the sodium and the water much, much more rapidly. So to summarize this concept, the body has an alternative energy pathway. It generates a form of electricity using water and electrolytes like sodium and potassium. And a simple homemade electrolyte drink supports the system by providing these key minerals, with glucose acting as a transport facilitator to speed up the whole absorption process. Here's the summary for this alternative power system. And for your final board exam question, what is the synergistic role of sugar, or glucose, and salt, or sodium, in an oral rehydration solution? To wrap this all up, Alex leaves us with a really provocative thought. We've just laid out a clear, logical, engineering-based framework for system diagnosis and recovery. The protocol itself is straightforward. So why is it so damn hard for people to execute? Well, perhaps the biggest challenge isn't the complexity of the machine itself,
but the difficulty of overriding our own deeply ingrained programming, the societal beliefs and the traditional knowledge that often run completely contrary to the system's actual operating manual.
So, if you want to know more, if you have your own questions about this protocol, or you want to dive deeper into any of these stages, this is where the journey continues. Alex is waiting to answer your questions.